in a defense of Jones's light heavyweight championship. But right now, let's look ahead to one of the biggest upcoming bouts on the calendar. February 13 in Las Vegas, the biggest test of Oscar De La Hoya's career as he gets ready to fight unbeaten welterweight champion from Ghana, Ike Quartey. And Ike lives and trains much of the time here in Pensacola, so he joins us live here at ringside tonight. I'm assisted by Fred Asifo, who speaks Ike's native Ghanaian language of Ga, but Ike's been living so much in Pensacola that his English is getting a whole lot better as he gets ready to fight De La Hoya. Because you didn't take a tune-up bout, and because De La Hoya cited an injury in training to delay this bout, which was originally scheduled for November, you're going to come into the ring not having fought in more than a year. Does that concern you at all, Ike?
No, that doesn't concern at all, because everybody know who I am and what I can do. It doesn't concern at all if I haven't fight for a year. I can earn the Oscar easily.
Well, you say everybody knows what you're going to do. You've overpowered most of your opponents in the past with your strength and your terrific jab. Are you expecting to go out and dominate De La Hoya with your jab?
The same thing going to happen on February 13th. I'm going to wear him down with my jab, and then, I'll do what I got to do.
How big is this fight in your life?
This is the biggest fight in my life. People think this is the toughest fight, but I don't think this fight is tough because Oscar is not tough. But this is a big fight for me because Oscar is big in America.
Do you think American fight fans know who you are and realize how big a challenge this is for Oscar?
I think they know who I am and what I can do. I think they know I'm the best 147 up there, so they know what I can do.
You train in the same gym as Roy Jones, although I'm told your workouts are at different times. But have you spoken to Roy about De La Hoya and what he thinks you can do to beat Oscar?
Well, I haven't spoken to Roy about Oscar, but Roy thinks I'll beat Oscar about me because he's my buddy, he's my friend. We always talk, but I haven't talked about Oscar with Roy.
But he hasn't talked to you about how to beat Oscar?
No, we haven't talked about that, because I know who Roy is and he knows who I am, so we just talked to each other about, just normal and not about boxing.
Suspect that Oscar is watching out in Big Bear, California tonight as he gets ready for February 13. What do you have to say to him?
Oh, Oscar should get ready. I think Oscar's not ready to fight me. I think he don't want to fight me, but I hope he will show up in February 13 and receive what I want to give to him.
Ike Quartey of Ghana and Pensacola, Florida. February 13, Las Vegas, Nevada. We'll see you live against Oscar De La Hoya. Thanks very much for joining us. And that bout will be live pay-per-view from the Thomas & Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada. February 13, by far the biggest test so far in De La Hoya's career. You might likewise call it the biggest test so far for Ike Quartey. And still to come tonight, second of our two main events, Roy Jones Jr. fighting in his hometown of Pensacola against New York beat cop Rick Frazier, rated by one of the world's governing bodies as the #1 contender for the light heavyweight crown. Right now, let's look ahead to some upcoming sports programs here on HBO. January 25 marks the next edition of Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. Some of the stories we'll feature: a recent study which claims that 20% of NFL players have criminal backgrounds, an investigative report on offshore sports gambling operations, and a look at the strenuous life of an NFL assistant coach. On January 30, Boxing After Dark showcases the heavyweights as Michael Grant takes on Ahmad Abdeen and Andrew Galata meets Jimmy Thunder. On February 20, a terrific welterweight championship bout between title holder Felix Trinidad and former champion Pernell Whitaker. 1 week later, Shannon Briggs meets Lou Savarese, and light heavyweight champion Reggie Johnson defends his crown against Will Taylor. Also on February 27, a preview of the upcoming heavyweight unification bout between champions Evander Holyfield and Lennox Lewis. And as we bring you back live to ringside in Pensacola, once again with the legendary fight trainer and manager Gil Clancy to set up Richard Frazier, New York policeman, against Roy Jones. Now, Frazier, obviously, as a New York cop, has done most of his professional fighting in New York since turning pro at the age of 32. You've seen him. What will he bring to the ring against Roy Jones?
Well, he may bring something, just maybe a little trouble. This is a fight that, in my opinion, Roy Jones can win and lose. I don't think he can lose the fight, but he could lose some stature because of the style of Ricky Frazier. Ricky Frazier has no offense at all. I don't think he could hurt me. But the idea is he makes you look bad because he doesn't try to win.
I haven't hurt you in all these years. You're saying that Frazier has enough athletic wherewithal in there and maybe enough strength to wrestle Jones, throw him off stride, make him look bad?
Well, he's the worst kind. He's a tall, cute southpaw that doesn't really let it all hang out, never gives you a good clean shot. It's going to be very difficult for Roy unless he walks right out and walks right through him.
Jones making a living recently off of southpaws. This will be his third consecutive match with a southpaw, but Larry Merchant, off of what Gil Clancy just said about Rick Frazier, you have to wonder if he really has any right to be here. So the obvious question, how did he get here?
Well, he's a policeman, and Roy Jones has previously beaten a school teacher and a mailman. Apparently, he likes to beat up on civil servants.
Watch out.
No, let's give discredit where it's due. Ricky Frazier is a mandatory challenger because his promoter, Don King, and his manager, one Elvis Grant, are close buddies of Jose Suleiman of the World Boxing Council, also known as the World of Bandits and Charlatans. Be that as it is, it's not a bad thing for a journeyman fighter to get a shot at a good payday. One wishes, however, that this policeman at least would be favored to beat another member of the NYPD Blue, Andy Sipowicz.
Incidentally, we asked him to rate the police shows. NYPD Blue, okay. Homicide, Life on the Streets, that's the one he says is real. Well, regardless of his credentials as a professional fighter, the story of a New York beat cop getting ready to fight the man that many regard as the very best fighter in the world is in its own way irresistible.
Hi, my name is Rick Frazier, New York City police officer, shield number 10989 of the 26th precinct of New York City. And I'm here to fight Roy Jones Jr. for the championship of the world.
39-year-old Rick Frazier is no ordinary police officer. When he's not patrolling the Harlem streets near where he grew up at the General Grant housing projects on Broadway and 124th, he pursues his career as a professional boxer. From 8 to 4 each day, he's one of New York's finest. Before and after, it's a fighter's life.
It's just a way of life. I mean, I get up in the morning, I do my road work, I do my strength training when it's time to go to, lunch, and then when I finish, I go to the gym. That's just what I do.
And that's what he's been doing since his amateur days. After compiling a 124-win, 5-loss, not-for-pay record that included 3 New York Golden Gloves titles, Rick decided to turn professional at the advanced age of 32.
I wasn't planning on turning pro at all, and I was sitting home thinking one day, you don't want to get to 40 and say you should have had at least one pro fight. And so when I turned pro, I didn't turn pro thinking of contention or anything like that. I just turned pro to get a fight.
So Rick further complicated his life and now boasts 2 full-time jobs. With full cooperation from his precinct, he has managed to juggle both effectively in preparation for his boxing career's biggest moment.
They hooked it up where I can take my vacation. In this particular time of the year, it's hard to get off, because it's the holiday time. Everybody and their mother wants to get off. Even the working parents of the precinct, they understand, fine, if I can't have the day off, you want to give it to Rick so he can go fight for the title, fine, they'll do that.
It was something we felt we owed him. While we didn't break any rules, we certainly cleared the path for him to go and pursue something he's been trying to attain for many, many years.
On extended holiday vacation, Rick has now been training full-time in Philadelphia with his heart set on a world title. But only 7 years ago, his future didn't look so bright. In off-duty time, Rick and 3 friends allegedly got into a fistfight with 2 men on a New York City sidewalk. Rick was charged with assault after a man he was said to have punched died of head injuries.
It was an incident where I was accused of, being involved in some kind of big street fight, and I wasn't. I don't mess around. I don't get in trouble. I don't do anything. I don't bother anybody. And then something happened in the street, and you don't believe me. Like I'm not telling a lie. This is what happened. Then when you get all your facts, you go, oh man, this guy was telling the truth.
After a 3.5-year process, Rick was cleared of all charges. During that time, he fought frequently, and his pro record now stands at 18-3-1. He has been elevated to top-ranked contender without having beaten any big-name opponents. In anticipation of the upcoming title fight, every policeman in his precinct has become a boxing fan. and they freely offer their takes on his chances against Roy Jones.
One particular girl, she said, oh, Ricky's going to do all right. And as soon as the cameras went around, he's going to kick your butt, you know. And I'm like, that's coach now. I still love you, though. I come to work, I get pictures of Roy Jones pasted on my locker. It says, kick your ass, Rick. Then it says, you want a piece of me? Not. One of my partners that I work with, he told me, yo, Rick, put my name on the bottom of your shoe.
So when Roy knock him out, everybody can say, hello, Chris Green.
We have good medical benefits in the police department, good dental program in the PBA, so if he gets hurt, they'll patch him up. And he's a good-looking guy. We don't want to see him messed up.
Everybody takes turns pop shotting at me, you know, but it's all good. They needle and needle and needle, and everything's a joke because on a serious note, you can get killed as a police officer. So we needle and we laugh and we joke because we don't want to look at that side. You know, we always look at the positive sides of things.
Win or lose tonight, Rick Frazier's efforts can be commended, not only as a 17-year veteran of the New York City police force, but also for his determination to fight professionally at the same time. He's proving to himself that if you try hard enough, nothing is impossible.
Tale of the tape for Roy Jones Jr. against Richard Frazier, the 10-year age difference. 1-inch height advantage for Frazier. They weighed in within a pound of the 175-pound limit. Jones has gained 7 pounds. Frazier's only gained 4.5. A reach advantage for Frazier. Will he try to grab, hold, and wrestle with Roy Jones? We'll wait and see. No punch stat numbers here because of the absent quality of Frazier's opposition. So we go straight to the rules with Harold Letterman.
The Roy Jones Jr. Rick Frazier fight once again is scheduled for 12 rounds using the rules of the Association of Boxing Commissions. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. Only the referee can stop the fight, and you cannot be saved by the bell in any round, including the 12th and final round. Jim.
All right, thank you, Harold. And here comes Rick Frazier in uniform. Las Vegas odds maker Herb Lembeck lists Frazier as a 100-to-1 underdog against Jones.
Frazier does have some athletic ability. He told us that he went to Wilberforce College in Ohio on a basketball scholarship, trying to stay in shape. Found himself getting into boxing at the age of 22.
And the ring is crowded with an assemblage of former boxing champions who've been brought here by promoter Murad Muhammad to help celebrate Roy Jones's upcoming 30th birthday. Man in the baseball cap to the left of your screen right there is Ken Norton, as a matter of fact. Norton, one of a dozen or more memorable boxing figures who were in the ring together just a few moments ago. And as Frazier arrives, there's a look at his record. 18 wins. Most memorable of his 3 losses was a TKO at the hands of William Guthrie, who was a contender for a light heavyweight shot against Roy Jones until being knocked out last year by Reggie Johnson.
And whenever one thinks of the process through which Frazier got here, he is here. Big moment. Exceeded his dreams, in fact. And you do have to give him props for that.
And Roy Jones, who always tries to put the best face on everything, says he's honored to be fighting against a policeman because they are so richly deserving of societal respect.
But you can get 20 years in the state of Florida for assaulting an officer.
But on a first offense, you might get away with 5.
I see.
Roy, as usual, entering to partially self-composed music and with a headset microphone on so that he can help deliver the goods as he comes into the ring. Deliver the words, anyway.
Roy wearing another original creation for this event, his high school sewing teacher.
Ms. Doris Law right there.
Yep. Roy is very loyal to his friends old and new in Pensacola. She sews these outfits at no cost.
Don't forget, she also taught Roy how to sew.
She sews down the law for him.
Right, and if he busts a guy up in the ring, he can run across and sew him up.
And Roy's ring record has been constructed entirely in outfits sewn by Doris Law. The one loss, of course, when he was disqualified for knocking Montel Griffin to the canvas and then hitting him twice after he was down. That loss, shortly after that, avenged in a sensational 2-minute, 1-second knockout of Griffin. Everything else, a relatively easy victory. While you're watching this upcoming bout, you can also log on to www.hbo.com/boxing to chat and score each round of tonight's action. Also, record your prediction for the upcoming welterweight showdown February 13 between Oscar De La Hoya and Ike Quartey. And now let's go to ring announcer Mark Barrow to get started with the main event.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get underway with tonight's championship bout, we would like to once again recognize the passing of yet another great boxing warrior, with the passing of a gentleman in every sense of the word, passed away with a never say quit spirit in the ring. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we will have our 10-bell tribute in memory of the great heavyweight contender, Jerry Quarry. May he rest in peace. And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the Pensacola Civic Center in Pensacola, Florida, Murad Muhammad and M&M Sports and Square Ring Incorporated, in association with the Grand Casinos and Pepsi One, all the taste, 1 calorie, and only one has it all. Pepsi One presents the HBO main event of the evening, Law and Order. 12 rounds for the WBC and WBA light heavyweight championships of the world. Ring officials assigned by the World Boxing Council, President Jose Suleiman. Supervisor in attendance, Dr. Pedro Sequeria. And by the World Boxing Association, President Gilberto Mendoza. Supervisor in attendance, York Van Nixon Jr. Your judges at ringside are, from Detroit, Michigan, Glenn Hirsch. From Dallas, Texas, Oren Schellenberger. And from Leesburg, Florida, Frank Skilbred. Your referee for this event, el hijo de la República de Cuba, making his home in Miami, Florida, el caballero Armando Garcia. Now, ladies and gentlemen, introducing the principals first. In the blue corner to my right, wearing the blue trunks, weighing 174 pounds. His professional record, 18 victories, 3 defeats, 1 draw, and 7 wins coming by way of knockout. A proud member of New York City's finest, hailing from the big city, New York City. Rated number 3 by the WBA and number 1 by the WBC. The challenger, Tricky Rick Frazier. Frazier. His opponent in the red corner, wearing the gold sequin trunks, weighing 175 pounds, with a professional record of 38 victories, 1 defeat, 32 wins coming by way of knockout. The pride of Pensacola, Florida, the WBC and WBA light heavyweight champion of the world, Roy Jones Jr. Jones Jr. 12 rounds for the WBC and WBA light heavyweight championship of the world.
Roy, Richard, we spoke in the dressing room. I'm confident that you know exactly what I expect of you. Gentlemen, I will control this fight. This will be a clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Obey my commands at all times. Any questions? Touch gloves. May the best man win.
This small 16 3/4 foot ring did not affect the earlier fight. It could affect this fight if Frazier intends to do a lot of running. Perhaps it signals the fact that Roy Jones, having had to train through the holidays, doesn't want to have a long fight.
Well, again, this ring does not meet the regulation size, according to the WBC. The minimum is supposed to be 18 feet.
Yeah, but they make up the rules as they go along. You know that.
Jones, who sometimes doesn't use the jab very much, tonight starts out using the jab against Frazier, the southpaw. And as usual, Roy defies convention because a lot of fighters don't try to jab against southpaws. They lead with the straight right hand instead.
But one thing that he is doing that I agree with that he wasn't doing the other times before southpaws is he's moving to his left most of the time. Now he just went to the right.
What's the advantage of moving to your left against a southpaw?
Then that sets up your left hook to the body and head. And with that, then you can also nail him with a straight right hand. The other way, you're walking right into him.
Let's go, break clean. Break clean, step back.
You want to see the opposite example? Go back and look at your tape of De La Hoya Whitaker and watch Oscar move to his right all night long against a southpaw, therefore nullifying his own left hook.
Absolutely.
Well, so far, Frazier is living up to your analysis. No offense, all defense.
When asked yesterday what he would do against Roy Jones, Frazier basically said, hey, what can you say about Roy Jones? He's super fast, hits very hard, has every conceivable skill. I guess I'll do whatever I can. Frazier flicking a couple of jabs. Jones, who has been increasingly devastating to the body in the last year, has only sneaked in one effective body punch against Frazier so far.
He has nothing to punch off because Frazier just does not lead. His first move is always defensively. Makes it very, very difficult for Jones. Not that he can't win rounds easily, but for him to nail him with a big punch.
Down goes Frazier.
Was that a punch?
He's complaining that he slipped.
Looked like a fall to me.
It looked to me like he went in the water.
Well, I suspect there's no boxing announcer alive who wouldn't have looked for the earliest opportunity to say, down goes Frazier. And there it was.
Trying to catch it with Jay Perry, the jab, fake the jab, and then come with another one. You'll hit it. You'll hit it. Just take it. Okay, then. Let's go be there. You scared as shit. Jab. Right the top of my head.
Wipe the top of his head. a slip. That's all.
Yeah, I know that.
Okay, you warmed up now, baby. All right?
Some water.
Here you go.
Take an overhead look of this knockdown. You see the cushion with the advertisement on the side of the ring, just outside of the ropes. He stepped on that and slipped. There was a light tap to the top of the head that might have helped the slip.
It was completely off balance. He was.
So even though Pepsi 1 has only 1 calorie, it was heavy enough to knock over Richard Frazier.
And give you an opportunity to pay homage to Howard Cosell's call in the George
Well, it
Foreman
wasn't
fight.
exactly the thunder of Jamaica. It wasn't Foreman lifting Frazier off the canvas with his uppercuts, but it was the best we could do for the moment. And now the advertisement has been removed from the far side of the canvas.
Well, no matter how small the ring is, Frazier is finding a way to make it look bigger.
And Jones switches to southpaw and nails Frazier with a right hook. And leads with the left out of the southpaw stance.
Frazier still will not punch back. They have to walk right through him.
I suspect that Jones is switching to southpaw because he believes that'll give him a better punching angle against the southpaw Frazier.
Well, he's switching to southpaw because he doesn't respect Frazier's arsenal at all. You can see Frazier when he gets hit, he doesn't punch back. If he blocks a punch, he doesn't punch back.
Will it be appropriate for the referee to step in and say, Ricky Frazier, you're here to fight. If you don't throw punches, I'm going to penalize you and maybe even stop the fight?
Well, again, Larry, many years ago, the most effective thing the referee could do is walk over to the corner and say, unless you start fighting, I'm going to disqualify you and you're not going to get paid. They hear that word paid and somehow it wakes them up a little bit.
Gets their attention.
We mentioned that Jones is fighting a 3rd consecutive southpaw tonight. Lou DeVal in the summer, Otis Grant in November up at Foxwoods. And in both of those fights, he switched to southpaw stances from time to time as well. As he did against Eric Lucas a few years ago in fighting a southpaw who once went the distance in a victory over Frazier.
Frazier seems to be patrolling the beat in a dangerous neighborhood.
Jones whacking him with a lead left hand out of the southpaw stance.
Make him feel more comfortable if somebody put the lights out.
Now Jones goes back to his conventional stance. Jones in the conventional stance, holding his left hand below his waist and looking for lead right hand opportunities. There's a landed right. If we had a 20-foot ring, this could be truly dreadful.
Frazier's agile enough to move away from punches, even in the 16-foot ring, because again, he doesn't give you anything to punch off.
Left hook stunned Frazier. Little right hand tap knocked him down. And hello, Chris Green is not written on the bottom of Frazier's shoes. And that's the end. Armando Garcia decides that that's a good moment for stopping the fight.
Well, this is an early stoppage state, as we saw in our last doubleheader here a few weeks ago. In those circumstances, we questioned whether the fight should have been stopped. In this circumstance, I have to applaud the referee because it only could have gotten uglier.
And uglier, and uglier.
What about the stoppage, Harold?
Jim, you know something? If you're in a down position, you're in a down position. Rick Frazier's whole body was off that canvas. The only thing that was on the canvas when Armando Garcia got to 9 was the soles of his shoes. He's not in a down position. Armando Garcia should have cleaned the gloves off, and if he was going to let it go, but not count the 10. You don't count 10 with a guy in an up position. You count 10 when a guy's in a down position. When something is touching the canvas other than the soles of his shoes.
I'm not sure the 10 count had anything to do with the stoppage of the fight. I think he was just sort of...
Just stop the fight. That's the way I see it.
Filling out the count, yeah.
Yes, but he counted him out.
No, we don't. Let's see. I think he let him get up and then he stopped the fight.
That's just a technicality, Harold. This was a fight between a great fighter and an ordinary fighter to put your best face on it. And the referee did all of us a favor by sending us home early. I applaud him no matter what the letter of the rules are.
There's the referee, Armando Garcia, who had seen enough of Richard Frazier against Roy Jones. So Jones gets a second round technical knockout over Frazier. And we go up to Mark Barrow for the official particulars on Roy Jones's 30th birthday present.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time, 2 minutes, 59 seconds of the second round. The winner by technical knockout, and still the WBC and WBA light heavyweight champion of the world, Roy Jones Jr.
Final punch stat numbers. Frazier landed 4 of 29 punches in his 5 minutes 59 seconds of work. Jones 39 of 92. Those numbers relatively meaningless in the wake of this non-competitive affair. Larry Merchant first with an interview with the referee Armando Garcia.
All right, thank you very much. I'm here with the referee. Explain why you stopped the fight.
What I did was I counted as soon as he went down. When it got up to 8, he didn't appear like he wanted to come up. At 9, he very hesitantly got up. When I got to 10, he was barely with his hands up. I was looking into his eyes. I was fortunately in good position to evaluate him. And if he really wanted to continue, he would have looked at me, gotten his hands up, and been ready to go. I want this fight to go on. Okay?
Let's take a look at what happened here, and you explain it to us. Did the fact that Frazier was not even remotely competitive have anything to do with your decision?
No, sir, absolutely not. He deserves the right to fight, the right to win. I'm counting there. He's looking at me. I tried to get him to get up. You know, I'm looking right at him. Over here when he went down, it was very, not a very hard punch, but he did go down. He did not react well from it. I don't think he had his legs from under him since the very beginning of the fight, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you very much. Jim?
All right, so another victory for Roy Jones, and one which is not likely to be seen to have proven very much, Gil Clancy, but Jones will be haunted his entire career by the question of when he's going to fight somebody until that fight arrives that will help him to define his career. And in the light heavyweight division, maybe it never comes.
But you know, with Roy Jones this time, it certainly wasn't his fault as to who the opponent was. The fighter was ranked #1 by the WBC, and he had to fight him, or they were going to take his title away.
Yeah. So now let's go to Roy Jones, who wants to say something to the entire assembled house a week away from his 30th birthday.
There are a couple more fights left, but I'd like to say thank you to everybody for coming out and supporting Roy Jones Jr. It's been a wonderful evening. We've had a wonderful, successful career. I appreciate everybody in Pensacola for always supporting me. I always try to do my thing to prove that Pensacola is #1. And as long as I'm doing this, we're going to stay #1. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Roy. Could a fight like that in any way be satisfying for you, Roy?
No, not at all. First of all, I take time out to thank God for giving me the opportunity to do what I do. I enjoyed tonight. I'm glad everybody got out okay. Nobody was hurt. I'm sorry that the fight got stopped early, but you know what was I to do? I'm not the guy who makes the fights. I have to go out and just do what I have to do. I wouldn't fight fights like that normally if it was a fill-in fight, for one. Number two, I got to defend my title. If they say, you know, you're going to strip you or you got to defend against #1 contender, I have to do what I have to do.
All right, so he's a mandatory. So now we're hearing that your other title belt from the WBA, they're going to tell you to fight some 39-year-old guy from Argentina. Aren't you big enough now to tell these people with these belts, take your belt, don't force me to fight these kind of fighters. It doesn't make me look good. It doesn't make the sport look good. And let me go and fight the better fighters out there?
Well, you know, it's not my job to tell the people what to do. I enjoyed being champion while I was in the sport of boxing. I don't look to be in the sport of boxing much longer. I am bigger than having people order me around. Nobody's going to order me around. If it's not something that I like, then I'm going to go do what I want to do. You know that yourself. But I don't want fights that are not going to be beneficial for me. I don't know if the fights are beneficial or if they're going to be great fights until I get in here and fight them. So I can't judge a guy just from what he's supposed to be or what he's not supposed to be.
All right, we've put together a graphic that shows some of your potential opponents out there in the light heavyweight division. Here they are: Reggie Johnson, who has one of the belts. We'd like to see you fight him. Bernard Hopkins, middleweight champion, who you fought once to a 12-round decision. Darius Michalczewski, the undefeated German, who says he is now willing to come to America to fight you. David Telesco, a new fighter, good puncher. And Steve Collins, the Irishman, who says he's ready to come out of retirement. Give us your thoughts on who you would like to fight in this year.
Well, Larry Merchant, to be honest, since we got to do it like this, if you think about who I really am, I'm Roy Jones Jr. I don't give a care who they bring to me. You are welcome to come get you some. Whoever wants some can come get some. They know what to do. Call HBO, tell HBO what to tell them what you want to do, and y'all know Roy Jones Jr. Bars, none.
Thank you very much, Roy. None. Just a word before we depart from the ring. You know, we try to bring you the best fights possible, even though managers and promoters often go by the credo that they want to fight the easiest opponent for the most amount of money. Tonight we had a fight between a great fighter and a very marginal fighter because it was dictated by the WBC. And it turned out that in this fight, at least, we brought you junk. Jim?
All right, thanks very much, Larry. Darius Michalczewski, Bernard Hopkins, David Telesco, Reggie Johnson. Who do you want to see him fight?
Well, I'd like to see the guy to give him a lot of trouble would be Reggie Johnson, another southpaw, but a good southpaw.
Yeah, he seems doomed to continue fighting southpaws, but there's no question Reggie Johnson appears to be the one on the horizon who would be most likely to give Roy real competition in the ring.
That's correct. You know, when he knocked out William Guthrie, everybody was talking about William Guthrie like he was Superman.
Yeah.
And Jones was afraid to go in the ring with Guthrie, but Johnson took care of Guthrie with no problem whatsoever. I'd like to see him in with Roy Jones.
We heard the 10 count at the beginning of the fight. Gil Ford, Jerry Quarry. You trained him, knew him as well as any man. Jerry Quarry's passing.
Jerry Quarry, people don't realize he was just a great fighter. Came along when there were some other tough guys out there. Fought every tough guy in the business. Fought Joe Frazier twice. Fought Muhammad Ali twice. Knocked out Ernie Shavers in one round. Beat Ron Lyle when he was undefeated. Beat Mac Foster when he was undefeated. Knocked out Ernie Shavers in one round. He was a great fighter, Jerry Quarry.
But of course, sadly, paid too heavy a price for his years in the ring. Larry?
Now, there's a cautionary tale, of course, that he did fight for much too long and suffered dementia, which led to his death. But I think we ought to, just picking up from where Gil was talking about, recognize he fought one of the more memorable fights of Muhammad Ali's career when Muhammad Ali came out of his 3.5-year enforced embargo from boxing. Fought a terrific fight with Joe Frazier, never ducked anybody. In fact, George Foreman didn't want to fight him, or his people didn't want him to fight him because they thought he was too tough. And George Foreman has always said to me that of all the heavyweights in that era, that Jerry Quarry was the best one who never became a champion.
Our own 10 bells for Jerry Quarry. We'll have a final word on what happened in the ring here tonight in just a moment. Now let's look ahead to some upcoming programs right here on HBO.
What's the one thing every woman, your mother, your wife, your daughter have in common?
They'll break my balls.
What's with you?
It's all right.
It's our marriage, Tony.
I can't take it anymore.
Oh, poor you.
when disco was king.
So let me just pop in this 8-track, and you just give a listen and tell me what you think, okay?
So you like my shoes?
They're pretty cool.
And pleasure was a business.
Cut. Terrific.
And the award goes to Mr. Dirk Diggler.
Mark Wahlberg, Julianne Moore, Burt Reynolds.
This is the best work we've ever done.
Oh, wait. Love this part.
Boogie Nights premieres Saturday, January 16th on HBO.
On January 25, HBO Sports presents the next edition of Real Sports with Bryant Gumbel. Among the stories to be featured, an investigation into offshore gambling operations that take in hundreds of millions of dollars in what American authorities say are illegal sports bets. A look at a controversial study which asserts that 1 of every 5 NFL players has a criminal background. Real Sports, where nothing is out of bounds. In 3 weeks, we'll be back with a heavyweight edition of Boxing After Dark as Michael Grant takes on Ahmad Abdin and Andrew Galata faces Jimmy Thunder. Then on February 20, World Championship Boxing presents a terrific welterweight championship battle between title holder Felix Trinidad and former champ Pernell Whitaker. 1 week later, Shannon Briggs meets Lou Savarese, and light heavyweight champion Reggie Johnson, we were just talking about him, defends his crown against Will Taylor. Earlier this evening, Shane Mosley successfully defended his lightweight championship, knocking out Golden Johnson at 259 of round 7, a bout in which Johnson sustained brutal body punishment throughout from the two-fisted, multi-talented Mosley. And then Roy Jones, in 2 rounds, easily put away New York City cop Rick Frazier. Frazier, who had somehow been elevated to the status of #1 contender by the World Boxing Council, was thoroughly embarrassed and outclassed by Jones, who got an easy celebration of his 30th birthday coming up next week. Coming up immediately after tonight's coverage of World Championship Boxing, stay tuned for Arliss Behind Every Great Client, followed by Above the Law on the East Coast, and the premiere of Space Truckers on the West Coast. So now for Larry Merchant, Gil Clancy, and Harold Letterman, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from the Pensacola Civic Center in Pensacola, Florida. The executive producer of HBO Sports is Ross Greenberg. Tonight's telecast of World Championship Boxing was produced by Rick Bernstein and directed by Mark Payton. The feature producers, Thomas Erdelfelt and Lisa Bennett. The associate producer, Greg Backer. Assistant to the producer, Matt Boland. Production manager, John McKelly. The technical supervisor was Bob Hunter, and the technical director was Doug Getz.